Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, guys. We want to welcome everybody here that's joined us here tonight on the program. We're going to dispense with the National Anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance today. We're coming on the air quite late. We had some more issues, and I believe it's this present location where we're at. This may be one of the last times, and I'm serious about this, this may be one of the last times we're on YouTube. I will be going over to Rumble. I have it all set up. I almost went on the air tonight, but I wanted to give everybody a heads up. We will soon be going to Rumble. If not Sunday for Sunday school, it will be Monday here on Rumble. I'm very tired of this present location. They continue to mess with our stats, number one. Number two, they're starting to mess with my connections, trying to get on the internet to come on the air. It's not necessarily getting on the internet. I have no problem getting on the internet. I have a problem getting on YouTube. Okay? They're messing with everybody. Okay? Don Patoga says, are ready to rumble. Yes, we are. We are ready to rumble. I hope everybody else is. I want to give everybody a heads up. So we may not do it on Sunday, but we will do it in the future. For example, possibly on Monday. I'm going to do a test video probably early during the day on Monday, just to make sure it's viable again, and then we're going to do it. I have a lot of information I want to share with you tonight. I'm going to probably go through it rather rapidly because we want to get this information out. The first thing I want to do is show you a solar flare. This solar flare launched from the sun a couple days ago. But I want to show you this because it is a dangerous flare. This is another X-class flare. Watch this. I'm going to replay it again. An X 2.6. That was an X-class 2.6. This was a huge flare. A very huge flare. Now, I want to show you some pictures of it, just to give you an idea of what it's like. I'm sorry, I will show this. I'll come back to this. I want to show you what this looks like. Look at this. This is what it looks like from the right side of the sun as we're looking at it. Okay? This is actually the east, what they call the eastern terminator, the eastern edge of the sun. This solar flare launched from the sun before it turned to the backside of the sun. The orbit of the sun I'm talking about. So what happened now? This solar prominence that you see here launching off the surface. This is plasma radiation, as we have explained before. Plasma radiation has launched. Okay? I want to show you what happened. This solar flare launched over here from the right side eastern terminator. This is 3576. This is sunspot 3576. It's over here on the far east side. You can just barely see it here because the 76 is off on the black background of the solar disk as we're seeing it right here. 3576. This is where it happened. Now I want to go back here and show you the X-ray flux right here. Look at the tall blue and brown lines here. The orangish brown line here. This was up in an X-ray. X flare at X 2.6. This was a major flare. Okay? This caused radio blackout almost across half the planet. Half the planet. Okay? That's how serious this was. Now, we are seeing the effects of this flare. It was supposed to hit the Earth yesterday. It has now hit the Earth. Okay? The speed of the flare, that is an entirely different situation. The solar wind is approximately 651 miles per second. 651 miles per second. It took this plasma radiation several days to get here. Usually it takes anywhere from 2 to 3. It took 4 days for this radiation to get here. So we're going to see, as a result of this flare, we are going to see a greater number of earthquakes. And I'm talking about large earthquakes as well as small earthquakes. Okay? We may even see another 6 or even another 7.0 magnitude quake. Okay? That's how serious this solar flare was. The solar flares affect our planet. They affect every planet. But because we are so close to the sun, it heats up the flare, the plasma radiation heats up the Earth. It heats up the tectonic plates. It heats up the core of the Earth as well. When the plasma radiation comes down here and hits the hits the tectonic plates, all the gunk and grime, rock, sand, and debris that holds those plates in place, all that stuff turns to an oily, greasy substance. An oily and greasy substance. It holds those plates in place until they heat up. The oily, greasy substance makes it possible that those plates slip more easily like this. That is exactly what's going on here. The plates are more easily slipping just like that. Okay? As a result of this flare, okay, we're going to see a lot more. We're going to see a lot more. Now, everyone, you need to make sure you're ready for whatever happens. Okay? Now, there were not a lot of 5.0 earthquakes here today. I want to start off by talking about that real quick. Let's go over to the USGS map and look what's going on here. Okay? Take my banner down. Look at this map here. This is the present location of earthquakes in the Imperial Valley area in Southern California. One earthquake up here to the north, just south of the lake there, okay, the Salton Sea. It's a huge lake. It's an inland lake, okay? But just south of the Salton Sea there, that is Calipatria, California. Okay? I showed you a seismogram last night detailing all of the earthquakes that have been happening around Calipatria and Nyland, California. This is just a 1.1 tremor. Now, the USGS is not showing us all of the quakes either. Okay, I want to make that perfectly clear. They have never showed us all of the quakes anywhere. We're not seeing them all here. But this is the ones that they want us to see for whatever reason. Okay? That's Calipatria. Over here is also Calipatria. This is a 1.6 tremor here. So we have two earthquake events right here. Two of probably 70 earthquakes that have hit here around Calipatria today. I want to remind you that if we brought up the Calipatria seismogram, we would see at least 60 to 70 events. This is just two of them. Let's go south to Brawley, California. We have another 1.3 tremor here. Okay? We go south and west over here. This is the town of Imperial, California. Okay? The town of Imperial. This is just west of Imperial here. Okay? This is a 1.2 tremor. This is a 1.1 here at Imperial, California. Okay? Let's back it out now here. Down here. This is at the border. This is at the United States-Mexican border area. This earthquake is on the north side of the border. This is a 1.8 tremor. Just south of there, also in Calexico, a 1.0. Yesterday we also had seismic events in Mexicali, on the Mexican side of the border. Okay? Earthquakes are still hitting. And there are actually a lot more earthquakes than this. Okay? This is just here in Imperial County. There's a lot more than that also over here at Salton Sea here. Right here, just west of the Salton Sea. This is a 1.2 tremor here. And this one that is just south and west of the Salton Sea, this is a 0.9, 1.0 tremor. A tremor. Ocotillo Park. Okay? 1.1 tremor here. 1.8 here. Okay? Earthquakes are still hitting here. And they're going to hit here for a good long time. Because the earthquake that hit here on Monday was not a 4.8 moderate earthquake as USGS had said. It was a large, very large 5.8 earthquake. 5.8 earthquakes cause aftershocks. So far, there are over 500 aftershocks that have hit the Imperial Valley since Monday, and there was also foreshocks prior to the 5.8. Okay? I just want to make it clear what's happening here. Now, I'm moving north here. Okay? I want to talk about an earthquake that hit over in Marina del Rey today. This is a 2.0 minor earthquake. Marina del Rey, California. Marina del Rey is over here. You see the Los Angeles airport south of there. Okay? So this earthquake is a 2.0 in Marina del Rey. This area here is Playa del Rey. We show you the seismogram from both of these locations every time we talk about Southern California, because both of these locations are right next to each other. So what happens in either area here affects the other. Okay? The seismogram for Marina del Rey and Playa del Rey sits over here in Playa del Rey right here. Okay? This is a seagoing community. Okay? They have yachts and boats that go out to sea every day here. There's a huge marina here. There's a very huge marina here. Some of the people from Playa del Rey come up here to Marina del Rey. They park their boats here in slips. We are going to see a larger earthquake hit here in Southern California. Whether it hits in Marina or Playa del Rey, we don't know. But it will hit here in Southern California. I believe, honestly, that the large earthquake that's going to hit is going to be out here, around Loma Linda or Mira Loma. This area right here. This is just west of the San Andreas Fault. That's why I'm saying that. The San Andreas Fault is right here. I believe the earthquake will hit west of the San Andreas Fault. Yes, the San Andreas Fault will be here, and it will probably be the cause of the earthquake in Loma Linda, Mira Loma, or anywhere here in Orange County. It will hit. The San Andreas Fault will be the reason. The San Andreas Fault is well behind the schedule for a major event. It's over 200 some years past being due for a major event. Any of the earthquakes, any of the smaller earthquakes, including tremors, they're not releasing the energy that's built up here on the San Andreas Fault. They're contributing to what's going to happen very soon here. We're also seeing an earthquake over here in Ontario, California. I spent a great deal of time here in Ontario. I dated a woman from Ontario whose parents lived nearby. I was up here quite frequently. This is a 1.6. and this is a 1.0 in Ontario. We fully expect an earthquake to happen in this area very soon. I believe it probably will happen between now and this summer. Okay? It could happen more sooner than that. We're just going to have to wait and see. Honestly, it's going to be a wait and see issue. This area right here, this is Malibu, California. This is a 2.4 earthquake here. This is actually north and west of Malibu. If you think about Malibu, it's right down here. Okay? This is where we had the 4.8 earthquake earlier this week. Malibu, California. So going north here, this is close to it. This is a 2.4. This is a 1.7. Okay? This is also not releasing any great stress at all. Okay? This is just happening because this is on the edge of the plate, the North American plate. The Pacific plate is subducting underneath the North American plate. Okay? Why? Let's move this out here. Okay? Let's go over here to the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic plate is here. Okay? We've talked a great deal about the Atlantic plate during the past 4.5, 5 years. The Atlantic plate is expanding. The Mid-Atlantic fault here is the center part of the Mid-Atlantic plate. The Mid-Atlantic plate is expanding. The Mid-Atlantic plate is pushing Europe in an easterly direction. It's also pushing North America in a southwesterly direction. We continue to have earthquakes here. We do not show any large earthquakes, any kind of earthquakes here on the Mid-Atlantic fault today. However, okay, with that said, there are earthquakes over here. Okay, this is the Canary Islands here. Okay, right over here near Tenerife, we've had a 2.0 and a 1.7 tremor here. 2.0 minor earthquake and a 1.7 tremor here near Tenerife, Canary Islands today. We go north. This is the Azores. The Azores are on the western side of the Strait of Gibraltar. We have 3 or 4 earthquakes right here, as well as many other earthquakes here in Spain today. Quite a few minor earthquakes in Spain. Okay? We also go out here near the center of the Atlantic Ocean here. We have a bunch of islands here as well. These islands are made by volcanoes, in case there's anybody wondering about it. Every island in the oceans were put there by volcanic action. And as a result of that volcanic action, magma down beneath the surface of the ocean here are creating earthquakes here in the western Azore Islands here near the Mid-Atlantic Fault. There's 2 earthquakes here today. Okay? Earlier today, we also had some earthquakes over here just south of Iceland. 3 minor earthquakes, 2.0, 2.1, and 2.3 earthquakes, just barely south of Iceland here. Okay? Just south of Valdese Peninsula here. Okay? Just south of there. There are tremors hitting over here on this peninsula. There are plenty of tremors hitting here on the peninsula. Most of the earthquakes that are hitting here on the peninsula are north of Greenvik. They're north of Greenvik. Scientists believe that the magma that caused the fissures to erupt earlier in the week are going to make more volcanic eruptions to the north here, south of Reykjavik. South of Reykjavik. As we reported, prior to the latest volcanic eruption north of Greenvik, authorities were building a bigger earthen wall around Greenvik, but they're also expanding a wall up here on the eastern side of Reykjavik, because there's actually been some tremors and earthquakes here. They want to stave off having magma enter Reykjavik. Reykjavik here is the capital of Iceland. So they're building another earthen wall around Reykjavik to keep magma or to keep lava out of Reykjavik. They do expect another eruption within the next 7 to 10 days. Okay? So we're monitoring this very closely. Many scientists are also monitoring this, including the USGS scientists and other scientists around the globe. Okay? It's not just us. I also want to report over here in New Madrid. Last night we tried to talk about somewhat about New Madrid, but there were so many things going on, we didn't get around to showing you all the seismic events happening here in New Madrid. There are many, many earthquakes and tremors hitting here around the New Madrid Fault. Over here on the northeast side of the New Madrid, okay, this is Tennessee. This is North Lilburn, Tennessee. This is a 1.7 tremor. Tremors and earthquakes are happening all over this area. We've reported about earthquakes over near the prison here in Tennessee. There's a huge federal prison here, and that's where the seismograph is located. We reported on a 2.7 earthquake earlier here this week. More earthquakes are hitting here. We have a report of a lot of earthquakes over in Missouri. In the past, we've shown you a lot of 3.5, even upwards of 3.8 to 4.0 earthquakes happening in Missouri. They're still happening. The central part of the New Madrid Fault is on fire, literally. Earthquakes happening here all over, whether USGS wants to admit it or not. There are seismograms that we have as standing proof of what's going on. The government can no longer say it's not happening. Now, if they start doctoring the seismograms like they have up in the Pacific Northwest, it doesn't mean the seismic activity hasn't ended or hasn't stopped. It's continuing. Whether the agencies want to hide the information, they can't. As long as there's seismograms to prove it, the agencies lie. That's what they do best. So again today, up here in northern Tennessee, Little Burn, Tennessee, 1.7 tremor here. Okay? Earthquakes are happening all over the eastern seaboard here. Okay? Over along this continental divide. This continental divide stretches from the northern part of Georgia all the way north through South Carolina, North Carolina here, where I live. I live on the western side of the foothills, the western foothills of the East Continental Divide. That Continental Divide goes all the way up here, Virginia, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Delaware, all the way up here through Maine and into Canada here. You see it here. This is the Continental Divide. The Atlantic Plate is pushing the North American Plate in a south-southwesterly direction. It is not subducting, it's pushing the continent. The reason that the Pacific Plate is subducting is because the North American Plate is being pushed over the top of it. We talked about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. Yes, we still believe that the Cascadia megathrust earthquake will originate up here off the coast of Washington and southwestern Canada. However, just because that earthquake originates here, it does not stop the entire western side of the continent from feeling the aftereffects of that earthquake. The entire continent will feel some part of that earthquake. Over on the western side, they'll feel a greater share of that earthquake, all the way over to the eastern seaboard, literally. It'll also be felt all the way up into Alaska. That major earthquake will also be felt over here into northern Mexico. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Today, over here in the southern part of the Cascadia subduction zone region, this is another 2.2 minor earthquake here in Petrolia, California. This is a southern part of the Cascadia subduction zone region. The Cascadia subduction zone comes down here and meets at what they call the triple junction with two other fault zones. Okay? The Gorda Escarpment that basically runs a straight line west of the Cascadia Subduction Zone, and the San Andreas Fault that connects with the Cascadia and the Gorda Escarpment. That creates a triple junction here. 3 major earthquake faults. The Cascadia Subduction Zone is said to, or will be, triggering the San Andreas. And that's how all that Cascadia energy will be felt all the way down through California. The San Andreas Fault runs from there up at the Triple Junction all the way through California, all the way down here through northern Mexico, out here into the down here through the all the way down here, runs through the entire Imperial Valley here in Southern California, goes through northern Mexico and out into the Gulf of California here. We still are having earthquakes here in the Gulf of California today. It's still happening. Okay? USGS doesn't show it. We have over 24 earthquakes today in southern Mexico. We have 8 earthquakes in Central America. We have 24 earthquakes in South America. USGS shows 2. What a novel thing. The preeminent earthquake agency for the U.S. is supposed to be setting the example for the rest of the world. They're showing 2 earthquakes, one here in Ecuador. This is a moderate 4.0. One other earthquake over here near Aveyah, Chile, northern Chile, a 4.8. Isn't that just wonderful? So between Mexico and South America, there's 50 earthquakes or more just right here that they have not shown us. They're not showing any earthquakes down here in New Zealand. There's about 15 earthquakes in New Zealand. They're showing us 1 earthquake up here in Tonga. Huma Tonga, a 4.5 earthquake, and this is a deep quake. This is 325 kilometers deep. Okay? That's going to make this 4.5 propagate probably a 5.5 magnitude earthquake. Over here in Vanuatu. Vanuatu, as of 3 days ago, has been having large earthquakes almost every day. This is another 5.2 earthquake here today. This is only 148 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake, but it is a large earthquake here. There are about 15 earthquakes here in Indonesia. They're showing 3. Okay? This is one of the largest subduction zones in the world. And yet USGS wants to only show 3 earthquakes. 7 different tectonic plates subducting under each other here. And yet the USGS doesn't want to show us what's going on. Fascinating. Fascinating to say the least. Okay? I'm just very disappointed in our agency. Lying to us again. Off the coast of Mindanao, Philippines here, there are 5 earthquakes here today. USGS shows us none. Earthquakes throughout the Philippines here. USGS showing us none. USGS is showing us one earthquake south of Japan here, right between Japan and Taiwan. This is a 4.7 magnitude earthquake, moderate earthquake, 10.0 kilometers deep, 6.2 miles deep. We go north over to Japan. Southeast of Japan in the Izu Islands here. This is a large 5.4 earthquake. A 5.4 earthquake. We're going to have larger earthquakes this weekend as a result of that solar flare. A 5.4 is going to be seen as nothing when that plasma radiation hits the Earth full force. Okay? Large earthquake here. 52 kilometers deep. Okay? Over here in Japan. This is the populated area of Japan here. Okay? We're seeing a 4.5 earthquake here. This is Shizuoka, Japan. This is a very densely populated area. Okay? Houses and apartment buildings. Okay? Look at that. This was felt. 4.5 earthquakes can create moderate damage, meaning pictures falling off walls, books and trinkets falling off of shelves and bookcases, dishes and plates rattling around in cupboards, possibly even falling out of cupboards. Okay? Other foodstuffs falling out of fridges or cupboards where they're at. A 4.5 earthquake struck here in a very densely populated area of Japan. Over here at the peninsula, we had some minor earthquakes here. But again, the agency doesn't want to show those, do they? Heaven forbid. Going north off the coast of Honshu here. This is a 4.8 magnitude earthquake over here in the islands just east of Honshu. Okay? They say this is 210 kilometers east-southeast of Omagawa, Japan. Omagawa-cho, Japan. A 4.8 earthquake, 10 kilometers deep. This is out in the ocean. Nobody felt this quake. The ocean waters absorbed the seismic energy here. Okay? Other earthquakes all over Europe. All over Europe, and some agencies not even reporting some. Other agencies report it. Over here, Afghanistan, a 4.6. North of here, Tajikistan, a 4.4. 4.0, 4.9 are considered to be moderate earthquakes. Over here in southern Japan, or southern China again. I don't know why I keep saying Japan. This is China. Okay? This is a moderate 4.4. A mid-range 4. These 4s can do damage. USGS here. I want to show you here because there's 50 plus earthquakes here. Probably closer to 70 earthquakes here in the border area between Turkey and Syria. 60 to 70 earthquakes here. Why are they only showing one? Okay? Inquiring minds want to know. Greece. Okay? This is Cyprus right here, just south of Turkey. There are earthquakes here as well. And then the Dokanese Islands here, just west of Turkey. The Dokanese Islands belong to Greece. Earthquakes hitting the Dokanese Islands and over here near Crete. Over here in Greece, they're not showing any earthquakes here, and there are about 18 to 19 earthquakes here. There's about 50 earthquakes here in Italy. They're not showing any earthquakes at all. From central Italy to northern Italy, there's about 50 earthquakes. This is the first earthquake that USGS has shown here in Italy. This just happened. This is a 4.0 earthquake here, 35 kilometers deep, northern Italy. Over here in the in the Alps, have the different side of the continent here. This is the Alps. Earthquakes hitting here. Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. France here. About 7 earthquakes here in France and also one in the Netherlands today. Okay? About 6 earthquakes here in Spain. Here in Algeria here. Just south of Spain here in Algeria. A 2.1 earthquake here. Algeria's been having some minor earthquakes here all week long. Only once did USGS say anything about it. Interesting. No bueno. No bueno. Okay? Real quickly, let's go over here to Puerto Rico. Okay? Puerto Rico. Southwestern Puerto Rico. We have a 2.0 earthquake here and a 2.4 here. Both of these earthquakes here are a result or aftershocks of 2 8.0, 8.4 earthquakes that hit here 4 years ago. 4 years and 2 months ago. Man-made earthquakes. 2 man-made 8.0 and 8.4 earthquakes hitting here. These are still aftershocks over 4 years later. That's why we're still seeing aftershocks over in Turkey and Syria. A year later, 60 to 70 earthquakes a day over in Turkey and Syria. Every day, the ground's still shaking there. Over here, just off the coast of western, southwest, or not even south, but central Puerto Rico here, just off the coast. This is a 3.2 small earthquake here. Okay? 21 kilometers deep. Central Puerto Rico. This is a 3.2 small earthquake here. Okay? South of there, along the coastline of Puerto Rico. This is a 2.8. Right next to it, a 2.7. And south of it, a 2.5. Southeast of there, another 2.5. I do not believe that these earthquakes have anything to do with these other earthquakes over here in southwestern Puerto Rico. They're too far away. Even when those major earthquakes hit here, we had very little of any other earthquakes over here. So I don't believe these earthquakes have anything to do with that. Okay? They have everything to do with that island settling. We'll talk more about that another time. I have a lot of things I want to talk to you about today. Okay? 2 other earthquakes up here near the Cayman Ridge. Okay? North of Puerto Rico. This is a 3.2. And this also is a 3.2. These are twin earthquakes here. Twin earthquakes that dropped off the Cayman Ridge. The Cayman Ridge is a deep trench here in this area. The Cayman Ridge originates over in Guatemala. It comes all the way out eastbound here, passing the Cayman Islands, going north of Jamaica, skirting southern Cuba, going north of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, going eastbound over Puerto Rico, and out here around the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and going further south here. It takes a deep dive south here and goes out east of the outlying islands here. Then once it gets past those islands, it takes an immediate turn west and goes straight into Venezuela. Straight into Venezuela. Yes, we have had earthquakes here on the Cayman Ridge here in Venezuela before. It's happened. Now, I want to go back here, over to the Dominican Republic. Just off the southeast coast of the Dominican Republic here. This is a 4.1 earthquake. A 4.1 earthquake. 66 kilometers southeast of the Dominican Republic. All I can say is wow. Okay? Wow. Not a lot else happening. Okay? I pretty much showed you everything I can think of out here around the world today. Now, I want to get into the emergency preparedness side of things. There are a lot of things going on. A lot of things going on around the world. Political upheaval. The elites of our world trying to control us and beat us up around the head and feet. Controlling our farmers on what they're producing. Making everybody's life miserable. Don said earlier he's making dinner tonight. He must be making dinner for everybody. Hey, Don, I'll be over in a couple hours. I wish I could. John Yo says, because lawlessness abounds, many of us grow cold. You're right. You're right. Prior to that, Diane Mayer says, it's nice that Don will make dinner for everyone. I wish. I haven't had dinner at Don's house, but he's come over to our house when we used to live just south of him, and we've had a lot of good long talks, Don and I. Great guy, I love him. My brother. But yes, we are having a lot of things going on. And as a result of that, all of us are in a really bad position. Our food is not going to be as plentiful as it has been in the past. The French farmers are not planting much of anything right now. They're too busy protesting the government in France that's been making everybody's life miserable. The Netherlands doing the same. The Netherlands are the breadbasket of Europe. So with France and the Netherlands not producing food, Europe is going to be in a real pickle. Because the United States government has also been putting a kibosh on farming here. With people like Bill Gates and other political figures making farmers and ranchers' lives miserable, things are going to be really bad here in the United States as well. We're going to see more and more shelves again being bare here in the U.S. and all over the world. From New Zealand and Australia down south in the Pacific, all the way up here into Alaska, Japan, Alaska, Canada and the United States, all over Europe. things are going to get bad. I want to talk about preparedness and preparedness supplies. It would be a shame if we didn't talk about it and nobody even thought about becoming prepared. Prepared for what? A lack of food? Dangerous conditions? Dangerous political conditions happening around our own towns and cities? How about earthquakes, fires and floods, tornadoes and hurricanes? That all's coming. It's all coming. And straight line wind events. Straight line wind events. They run parallel to the surface. They destroy homes. They destroy businesses. They tear apart our crops. They tear apart structures. They make it almost impossible to walk. We've seen that. But I want to talk about a couple scenarios here. And I want to talk about what's going on and how these things are going to affect us. Imagine for 2 years, you have meticulously planned and researched what you and your family are going to need to survive what you and your family are going to have in a crisis. Now, I'm not talking just about a few lights and sirens type of an emergency. I mean a big, soul-chilling catastrophe. Now, you have accounted for every variable in your preparedness situation. You've anticipated possibly every pitfall, and you have allowed for all the contingencies that are possibly available. You've calculated how much food and water and weapons and ammo and medical supplies you and your family and friends are going to need to persevere and survive. You figured that out. Every conceivable tool or asset or your provisions that you may need has been stocked away, and you're ready. You've tallied, you've counted, you stored these things securely. You're about as ready can get, materially. Now, imagine, if you will, that all of these supplies disappear. Imagine the blood-curdling, clammy fear, the choking despair that you're going to feel, that you would feel. Imagine how much worse it may be if this were to happen. But if it were to happen before or in the immediate aftermath of a crisis event. Can you imagine this event happening right in the middle or just before a major event, such as a huge fire coming in, a really bad storm, and flooding happening, just like we've seen over on the West Coast, and that the West Coast is going through again? Yes, folks, there's major storms hitting the West Coast again. A huge atmospheric river happening again. I told you last night there are several $1 million homes sitting on bluffs, above bluffs along the coastline. They're about to fall down onto the ocean surface. For all of your clever planning and your studious preparation, you forgot to protect the things that are part and parcel of your chances at survival. You didn't protect those things that could help you most to survive what's happening. Okay? We must be able to protect everything that we have. Now, let's be honest. You and I just imagine ourselves valiantly, but grimly driving off a roving band of looters. A roving band of looters going through our neighborhood. Fortunately, because we were well prepared, we were able to drive them off down the street. But what happens to those friends or neighbors down the street with these band of looters, gangbangers, knocking on their door, knocking down their door? What's going to happen to them? Those looters are hell-bent on taking what's yours or what your neighbors have. They're hell-bent to making sure that your home is left dusty and in smoking ruins. They don't care. We see this happening all the time, with these gangbangers knocking on doors, running hell-bent over everybody, killing everybody in the house. We see it happen all the time. The smoking ruins of our society laying drawn out before us because of what's going on. It's all right. It's a common thought among preparedness people about what is going on. And indeed, the exact scenario, the exact same scenario is part of why I'm talking to you about this tonight. If you don't think it will happen, I'm sorry to say you're sadly mistaken. With gangbangers, with the people that have invaded our country over the past 3 years, it's more likely to happen now than ever. Yes, we have more MS-13 in our country. We also have military men, military-aged men that have come into our country from over 160 countries around the world. 7 million people that have invaded our country. And if you don't think what I'm talking about won't happen, I think you're sadly mistaken. Now, we probably will have less dramatic occurrences that are waiting to strip us of our carefully stacked stash. We stocked up, didn't we? But these people are just waiting to take it away from us. Things as simple as theft, pestilence, spoilage, and simple mishaps or accidents. Yes, accidents are bound to happen. Not every circumstance that we're going to discuss tonight is truly preventable. But we can do our best, can't we? How do you prevent any 1 in a million chance occurrence from happening? Much less. But much of it is up to us. It's going to depend on us whether we are engaged in proper locating and preventative maintenance on the items that are within our storage. The items that we have put up for us and where those items are located. Your method and location of your stuff, your storage, is going to dictate to some degree how much or how little upkeep and preventive maintenance or measures that you're going to have to be instituting to keep your stash safe. But some things are going to be universal, no matter where and what we are keeping as ours. Now, I'm going to discuss a few important concerns when it comes to preserving the integrity and security of our precious storage, our stash. Some things are naturally occurring. Some result of man, actions of men. But we can reduce the chances of any of those things happening through proper procedures. Proper procedures. Where is your storage stash located? Where you have your stash located is an important factor in determining what must be done in order to keep it, making sure it will be still intact when crap hits the fan in our lives, in our families, in our neighborhoods. If your supplies are located inside your home, assuming it is built to modern standards, you probably will have done much of what you can to ensure the safety, the security, and the integrity of your supplies, such as moisture control, moisture level where you've got your food supplies, the security level of where you have your supplies. How about moisture level and also pest populations? Do you have your food supplies protected from rats, mice, bugs? Guess what? Some things you can't stop. Some things you can control. That's why we're here today. Okay? Now, things such as pest populations, those things might be low because we have them controlled, if you know what I mean. Putting bay leaves, for example, down in your flour, in your oats, in your wheat, making sure if you have whole grain wheat, for example, stored in nitrogen, it will keep the pests dead, keep the pests at bay. Stored properly in a 5-gallon container that's capable of withstanding 50 pounds weight. Yeah, the wheat's going to weigh 50 pounds in a 5-gallon container. But ensuring that we've stored that away. And we may also have some other things scattered around our property, or possibly even elsewhere. If your stash is located outside your home, say in a garage or an insulated outbuilding, you're going to need to be more vigilant about all of the above, including pests, that will even have a much easier advantage of gaining access to everything that you stored. And heat from the sun. Before my mother died, she'd stored a bunch of peaches and other canned fruit and vegetables. What we found when my dad started going through everything when he was going to move away from there, we found that a lot of the peaches that they had stored in an outbuilding on their property had suffered heat that destroyed the integrity of the fruit and vegetables that my mother laboriously canned. They were no good. Think about that. before you put your canned goods or other storage items out in outbuildings where they might be susceptible to pests and to the conditions, both cold and the heat. Think about it. Also think about all that storage being susceptible to thieves. Yeah, thieves. They're going to have an easier time breaking into those outbuildings that we may not even think that we need to secure. My father at the time, back in the 90s, didn't believe he needed to secure those outbuildings at his home. They never had the problems there. Basically because I kept showing up on his property in a police car. Go figure. Now, if items are located outdoors for whatever reason, either under a simple shelter or perhaps being buried, a lot of people bury some of their stash. Assuming you have invested the most appropriate containers for food storage, infiltration by rats and or water might still be a major concern. Larger four-legged raiders like raccoons will also become a problem for some people. I've seen it happen. I've seen snarly, fierce, nasty, dirty, rotten, vicious raccoons. Okay? It happens. If you don't adequately have your stash protected or completely hidden away from anyone who might come by to steal it from you, then you have not adequately protected your storage. If you decide to bury your supplies in one or multiple caches, even outside the location of where you're at, where your home is, the location you choose will be paramount for both the security standpoint and the accessibility of what you buried, your supplies. You might choose to locate one or all of them somewhere along your escape route, so you can have them as you access your escape route when you're bugging out. Some people do that. I've seen it happen a lot. I've talked to a lot of people that have buried their supplies along their escape route. And there's really nothing wrong about doing that, except the security end of it. Thieves, pests, and animals. But the more traveled the route is, the greater chance that your stash is going to be discovered by someone else. I have accidentally came upon other people's stashes when I've been out hiking in the boondocks. We all need to take greater pains to perfectly conceal our supply locations and eliminate any kind of evidence of your activity, any of our activity. We need to erase landmarks or anything that would identify your location as a signal to anyone who's passing by. Anyone that would be passing by that location where you stashed something, they would have the ability to find what you've gotten there. Now, while your cache might not likely be found, okay, if it's buried deeply, or it is well concealed in normal times, not like ours. We are presently living in a really bad time, and it's only going to be worse. We must anticipate things like floods or other disasters that I've talked about. The shifting earth, earthquakes, that might reveal what you stashed. Regular travelers of the same path might notice soil where you initially buried something, and they might come back to do a status check on your goods, especially if they decide they want to carry it off. They will have found it and simply partially buried it again, only to come back and take what you got there, especially if it's easy to dig up, or metal detecting enthusiasts might discover it. Yes, some of us have metal detectors, and if we have cans down in a plastic tote that is impermeable to water, the metal detector might find it. Then everything that we've taken to secure those cans and other things that have metal in it, in those totes, we're toast. As a rule of thumb, we need to locate our cache well above the water table. We talked about water tables before. Well above the water table and out of regular flood-prone areas. We have to take all necessary precautions not to positively locate our stash's coordinates, using landmarks, for example, and measurements. If we use a landmark, such as possibly a red flag, somebody else might find that, won't they? And they're going to ask themselves, why is there a red flag here? And if they have time, they may nose around for a while and find what you've gotten there. You need to keep it away from the beaten path. You need to give careful thought in landmark selection. GPS coordinates are great, but the GPS network might be down. The satellites might not be available. We might not have electricity to power our GPS coordinates, our phone, or GPS detectors. Okay? This is going to be a real issue. Things like trees and plants are comparatively easy to destroy. Even medium-sized rocks and boulders can be shifted by flood or earth movement, landslide, or earthquakes. It can happen. It's happening all over Southern California right now. A few examples of subterranean caches, sites where you might try to locate your storage, your backyard, in the forest or fields off your evacuation route, taking great care and precisely recording its coordinates. How about an accessible sewer? An accessible sewer. Okay? But someone else might also say they're out there hiking in pretty much an inaccessible area necessarily, and they might come upon that great big huge culvert area that's well shielded. But all of a sudden your foodstuffs are in there, or other storage items. Other people might go in there, and they will take what you've got. Our four-legged raiders, possums and prairie dogs and squirrels and raccoons, those animals may become a problem for some people if we do not adequately protect or completely hide what we have. Anyone who just happens to come by could steal all that we have counted on, all that we have taken time and money, carefully saved money to buy, to purchase. All of it can completely be gone without even thinking about it. Deadly disease and mold and spoilage is one of the other primary threats to our supplies. Preventing natural decay of foodstuffs, expiration, contamination from pests and other animals. You never know. This probably is going to be a never-ending chore. But one thing that must be done. Regarding pests and mold, depending on where you live, your environment, the storage conditions will be a major concern. Or they might be just a small concern. Simple spoilage and expiration of your supplies is constant, no matter where you live. Whether you keep your supplies in your home, hidden away in shelves, or even in your food pantry. You need to be very concerned about what is going on even inside your home. Pests come in many forms, from the exploratory nibbling of mice and rats and other vermin to infestation from hundreds of other kinds of insects. When I moved here to North Carolina, we found great big huge bugs. Huge bugs just about that big. About a dozen or so would come inside our home every year for the past almost 4 years now. Huge beetles, that big, no joke. They would make their way into the home through cracks in our screens. And as soon as we open up our windows for air, guess what? These beetles made their way into the house. And they would hide up in the corners of the walls, up near the ceilings. And just as soon as we have any food sitting on plates, look out. Just saying. Pests can ruin foodstuffs either by breaching a sealed package or breeding inside that sealed package, contaminating it. Prevention is another matter that we need to worry about. Knowing your enemy and employing suitable countermeasures. Countermeasures. You didn't think you'd hear that word when it comes to food. Countermeasures to prevent the food from going away. If mice, rats, and other rodents detect or even suspect that you might have food available to them, they will be back. Their ingress is easy. Through garages, outbuildings, cracks in our building itself, our home, our apartment complex buildings. They're honestly not very well built, none of them. But we need to kick out these vermin before they get into what we treasure the most. Okay? Once it is done, we need to place appropriate traps along likely lines of movement to try to trap and destroy these stragglers. Now, if you think about using poison, take care of using poison, as it might be ingested by your family pet. You don't want your pet or a small child getting that poison that could harm or kill your family member. Be very careful. Triple check all containers and all vessels for signs of intrusion. Boxes, containers of all kinds. Dealing with insect life is harder in some ways and simpler in others. Most insect infestations in the home, like the classic roach, parade and follow on the back of general filth and untidiness. Heaven forbid we have those things. Kanita Warrior says, rats in my trash. Oh yeah. I have evidence of a rat getting into my outdoor storage closet that I have. I've seen mice droppings on the floor of my storage container, my storage closet. I haven't heard it. I haven't seen them. But I've seen the droppings which tell me they're there. Keep your place clean, including your storage closets, especially areas where food is stored or where you prepare food. Don't leave telltale signs of food. Tiny pieces of flour left on your drain board or even up in one of your cupboards. If you have sugar, which most of us do, sugar is a famous place where all kinds of vermin like to get to. Ants, for example. If you have sugar placed in cabinets high above your head, you don't see what your sugar, your flour, or other things are doing to your shelf. Go up there with a ladder or a step stool and wipe it clean. You never know. That could be a special place for ants and other insect infestation. Don't take the chance. Weevils and mites are notorious, infesting in bulk foodstuffs and flour. That's why I put those bay leaves in my flour and in my oats. Okay? It's important. If you're able to store large containers of foodstuffs, flour and seed and everything else, those things can be contained in a bulk food storage container with nitrogen. Nitrogen will keep these pests at bay. Okay? Prevention is very easy if you buy pre-packed and sealed items. If buying large quantities of loose grain or something similar and transferring that to sealed containers, especially if you can put bay leaf down there or nitrogen, which will keep those bugs out. Use clean and sterilized tools and containers when you're effecting the transfer of your food. Other major concern for food items is simple spoilage. The sell-by date is not always reliable, coming or going. You must be rotating your food supply. Rotating your food supply. We talked about this before. If you use one thing, when you go to the store the next time, replace that and put that new item in the back of that other product that you have. Using older food first. That way you always have fresh food. Okay? It doesn't matter whether it's in boxes or cans or plastic. Use the older food first and you'll probably never go bad. Okay? Keeping your items past their prime might be hazardous. If you have a can that's bulged, don't open it. Throw it out. If there is a major best buy date that's passed, it's probably not a good idea to eat it. Okay? If it's way past the point of palatability or even safety, don't use it. This is a great case to stock items in formats. Okay? Food storage formats. So that you can enjoy these foods on a regular basis, rotating your food. Okay? As you can be drawing older stock from stores to cook with or eat, and then replacing it with fresh food the next time you hit the grocery store. If you think you can open up a 7-year gone can of tuna or stew and chow down with no consequences, you may be in for a huge long night, or at worst, a rude awakening. I'm warning everybody now. Been there, done that. Mold and rot will also affect things besides your food, including leather, any kind of fabric, paper, and even plastics. All of those are susceptible to vulnerable rot from disuse. If we don't use those things continually, they may break down. And if they break down, we're going to be in trouble because of lack of care. Mold will, of course, bloom. Mold will bloom like nothing else. Okay? It's easily spawned, and once it spawns, it's almost impossible to get rid of. But permeable materials are most valuable and vulnerable to mold and mold outbreaks. Because mold is tiny bacteria that will get in those tiny spaces, and it's almost impossible to get cured of it. Mold is often, though not always, a bona fide health hazard, and it must be prevented at all costs, if at all possible. Okay? I'm just saying, I've seen it. And not just seen it with myself, but with other families. Moisture is the emperor of mold. If you are aware of any kind of moisture at all, it can be tiny amounts of rain, or when it rains, there is a hint of moisture in the air. That moisture can get into almost anything and destroy what we have. Mold and darkness is an ally. Mold and darkness is an ally together. Mold loves darkness, keeping moisture levels as low as possible, and taking painful levels of paths for us to travel. Taking pain, I should say, to make sure you have adequate air circulation among your food supplies. This is critical. This is critical. Things that are crammed together and packed away far from the light and air are highly vulnerable to mold formation. Things that are kept out of the light and air are highly vulnerable to mold formation. We all need to be careful of that. Now, if you notice small dusty particles of mold forming on any of your items, whether it's on cloth, cardboard, wood, plastic, take the time to pull everything out for inspection and cleaning. Look up the proper procedure for remediation. Look up the proper procedure for remediation, depending on the material. A good wipe down with a strong disinfectant or even a mild bleach solution might be adequate. But we need to let everything dry out before putting it back in rotation. Let's talk about mishaps and accidents. Accidents and destructive mishaps can happen at anywhere at any time. An otherwise minor inconvenience could turn into a huge loss of money and effort if our storage is compromised or destroyed. I can just see any one of us sitting down after we've discovered what we've bought over a long period of time and put into our storage, and it's gone. It's ruined. I myself can see myself right now sitting back and going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? If your storage has been compromised or destroyed, it's no good. You don't have anything but a problem. A moderate water leak, or even a tiny water leak, or a weather-related flood event, where water can leak in, or any other weather event can leak into your home, or your outbuilding, or wherever it's at. This could spell disaster for whatever is in your basement, your outbuilding, your home. A basement or an outbuilding is a common place for locating your supplies. My dad and mother did that. And then we ended up throwing out a lot of food that our dear mother had made for us. Gone. Gone in a heartbeat. Anything worth keeping that you decide to keep in the basement should be kept off the floor. Off the floor at least 6 inches. Get a pallet. Get a wooden pallet that's in decent condition. Not one that's already had mold or other susceptibilities in the wood. Get a decent looking pallet. Put that down on the basement floor. Then you can start putting things on top of that pallet. And you'll probably have a good idea that it could be protected, especially if that basement floor gets wet. That's happened to my parents. That's happened to me. Okay? Keeping that wooden pallet and the supplies, no matter what it is, whether it's food or not, keeping supplies that you have in your home off the floors will prevent any spoilage from water that gets in. Okay? This will also give you good airflow to also protect from any mold or mildew that might happen. Okay? Now, one other thing that I fear because of my background is fire. Fire is a huge threat to our homes. And it could be doubly terrible if it wipes out your storage. Take the time to invest in smoke detectors. Smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. The carbon monoxide detectors to put in your living space, as well as your smoke detectors. And smoke detectors also in the place where you keep supplies, where you keep your storage. Okay? Take the time to invest in this. Put those detectors in places in your supply room. And you better be ready and know how to use them. And know what happens when the battery gets older and the detector starts chirping. Or maybe it starts chirping and you're not in the house at the time. Then all of a sudden, you're not in there hearing it chirp. And you've gone a long time not hearing that smoke detector's chirps. If you have a fire, that smoke detector might not warn you. My advice, as well as the fire department's advice, is every 6 months when the time changes. And yes, there are areas of the country and various other countries where time does not change twice during the year, like it does in the U.S. When you change your clocks, or if the electricity goes down, you have to change your clock. Check the batteries or replace the batteries in your smoke and your carbon monoxide detectors. Don't let that get away from you. That can be a deadly situation. Also, make sure you have adequate fire extinguishers in your home. I have 2 fire extinguishers, one in our bedrooms. I have a fire extinguisher down in the kitchen as well. You should always have at least 2 fire extinguishers in your home, or 1 fire extinguisher for every bedroom. Okay? Have those located in strategic places throughout your home. Take care of any shelving that you might be using. Make sure it's secure, it's sturdy, and make sure it's installed properly. Freestanding or wall mounted. A shelf that breaks or falls over from either accidental contact or an earthquake, guess what? Your storage is possibly contaminated, or worse, completely unusable, damaged. Okay? That last box of .22 ammunition, 9mm ammunition, shotgun ammunition. Okay? That would make even more of a mess. Just like marbles or BBs on the floor. Broken or damaged equipment or seals, broken and damaged storage containers. Okay? That could mean you no longer can count on your supplies or your items being sanitary to use or keeping for a specified time period. You need to think about that. Anticipate what might happen to all of the items that you have in your food storage or in any kind of storage. Now, lastly, I want to get into physical security. Your storage items are as vulnerable to theft as anything else that you own. The only question is whether or not a thief determines they're worth taking. A common burglar normal days may be looking for things that he can turn into instant money, cash, food items, clothing, most tools, electronic gadgets, phones, sound systems, televisions are most likely to be targeted. Clothes, maybe not. Food items, possibly, but absolutely money, jewelry, or anything else like that. You better believe that nugs and nug seeds or ammo and generators will be one thing that they'll steal in a heartbeat. Loss or destruction of these items could be dangerous. Ransacking will be of a concern because real bad guys will ransack your home till they find what they're looking for. Find something that they can turn into instant cash. Sadly, your home storage may be targeted for theft before or after a crisis. And folks, we talked about our countries, our societies in crisis right now, especially by criminally enterprising crooks. And there are plenty of those around. Plenty of those around. Or possibly someone that you even have some social contact with. A connection you might have. They might not be your friend or my friend, but they might be a friend of a friend or a relative of a friend. It's for this reason You need to treat security. No, you must treat security of all of your valuables and your home. In this case, your carefully guarded, stocked food storage. And you're going to want to accordingly protect that. Why? It can be stolen by anybody. I've talked a great deal about what I've done for my family and I. Stop telling people about it. Don't talk to them about what you got. Don't talk to them about where you put it. It's no one's business but your own. Yes, I've talked about my own stash here. I've even shown you what I have. But the bad guy doesn't know where I've got it. And I have a sign that says, "This home protected by Smith & Wesson, 6 days out of 7. You pick which days." We also have a sign on the gates, "Beware of dogs." And yes, they bark. Both of our dogs bark like they're big, huge dogs. They might be small dogs, but they'll bite your ankles. They'll nail you. And yes, we've trained them to do that. You need to make sure what you have is yours and yours only. Don't tell anyone about what you got. Don't trust anyone beyond your family what you may have. Okay? Don't talk to them or even mention the presence of what your storage is or your presence of your weapons. Mentioning those to the wrong person might be the beginning of the end, because then your home is targeted, or even yourself individually could be targeted. And what you said can be an open source of intelligence gathering to those that plan a theft, or they plan a hit on you. Okay? There's a reason that I'm talking about this. Think about someone that you may have said something to. Someone that doesn't really know you well enough. Then they're talking about making plans. They're writing up a plan to do a raid on your home when you're least expecting it. As soon as you go out to the store, you go out to church or some other place, there are people watching your home. And as soon as you leave, they take a chance and break in. That's why I'm very careful when I'm helping people plan for funerals. I never put in the obituary the exact time of the funeral. Never. I don't want anyone knowing that my house will be unprotected at a given point in time. Okay? Make sure that crime doesn't happen to you. Whomever you let into your inner circle, that you mention your personal preparedness to, they must be personally trustworthy to be able to talk to you or you to talk to them. And you must know that they will keep their mouth shut. That they will keep their mouth shut. It is impossible to determine how far a careless message could travel. We don't know. That's why we must know that those that we have closest to us will keep their big mouth shut. Keep your preparedness lifestyle to yourself. Don't ever put it on social media sites. If you're participating in forums or on forums or blogs, even like this video blog today, learn and plan. Learn and plan and take great pains to ensure your personal storage, your home, and your being are well protected. Okay? Be very careful. Yes, Sweet Polly Purebred says the earth is going to flip. And yes, at some time it will. Earthquakes can happen at the least time we expect it to happen. 7 o'clock in the morning when you're sleeping, whatever it is. They happen. Be careful. Maintain your anonymity in public. Don't advertise your name on a license plate. Yes, I've seen people do that. Don't put your name on a license plate. That's the last place that you want people to find out who you are. They'll look you up in the internet. My name is all over the internet. That's why I have a post office box. Okay? Be careful. Yes, I want to say this. It is great to meet new and like-minded people, especially ones that are in our own individual areas. But be careful. Be careful. Those that you might think that you want to bring into your circle closer to you, for mutual aid, for example, they might be scumbags. Scumbags exist across the globe. They utilize forums for knowledge gathering, intelligence gathering, as well as preliminary targeting purposes for robberies and rapes and vandalism and violence. Treat your information as a precious commodity. Guard your commodity jealously. Guard it jealously. In conclusion, your personal food storage is a sum of all your hard work. It might be your life, your knowledge, your care and concern. Your personal food storage will form the key to your survival efforts when a long-term crisis happens, and it's going to. Whatever dollar value your preparedness has, the universal economy of need in the aftermath of a major event will see the same supply of food, equipment, and other provisions become almost impossible to get. Those things will become very valuable, impossibly valuable. For that reason, each of us must take the time to look inward instead of ahead and ensure the safety and security of our family. The safety and security of our supplies has been accommodated in order to make sure that it is intact and ready to supply us when we need it, to supply us and our family when we are ready to use it, to supply you and your family against any hostile environment, a hostile world that each of us have found ourselves living in. You're going to be living in it, if you haven't guessed it already. Brothers and sisters, I have taken great time to put this presentation together. I'm only asking you, each of you, to make note of this presentation, to be prepared. I'm putting it over here on our channel so that you folks will be able to have it and to use this presentation to the most valuable extent that you can. We talked about emergency preparedness before. This is nothing new. We talk about it all the time, in one form or another. But tonight, I'm telling you, tonight, I personally have gone to great efforts to make sure you have the information that you have. I'm also asking you to protect that information and to use it in your own life. I love you. I care about each of you. That's why I put this time in, to make sure you have the information you need to be able to be prepared yourself. Okay? Please share this information wide. Make sure it goes to all your family, your extended family, your neighbors and friends that you're really close to. Make sure you share it with your close employee relationships. If you're close to someone on the internet, social media, you can tell them about this, but again, be careful. Make sure it's someone you trust. Okay? Please share it. I want you to share it. People need to see this. May God bless you now. God bless you. I want to share a scripture before we leave. This one is in Titus' 3rd chapter in the New Testament. Put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work, to speak evil of no man, to be no more brawlers, but gentle, shewing all meekness unto all men. For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving diverse lusts and pleasures, living in hateful and hating one another. But after that, the kindness and love of God, our Savior, toward men appeared. After everything else, here in verse 4, after that, the kindness and love of God, our Savior, toward man appeared. Think of that. Think of that in your preparedness activities, in your family meetings, your family home evenings, your family meetings when you're having your family members together, talking about important topics. Think about how important that is. God our Father wants the best for us. Okay? That's why we're talking about what we're doing tonight. God bless you. God be with you until we meet again. We're going to be back here on the air on Sunday morning at about 12 noon Eastern Time. For Come Follow Me, the Savior said. This is a special broadcast of Sunday School that we've been doing for years now. Join us here for Sunday School Sunday morning at 12 noon Eastern Time. Come follow me, the Savior said. Have a great weekend, folks. If something else happens tonight or tomorrow that we need to put out that's a major event, we'll be here talking about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, have a good time. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your wives, your family. Enjoy your weekend. God be with you till we meet again. Have a great one, folks. Be safe. God bless us all. Good night, everyone. Oh, they did it to me again. Hold on a second, guys. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. Can't believe they did it to us again.